We were muted. Now I think we're unmuted. Let me check this. We're live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. YouTube live. Let me know if you're having any issues with the audio. And I should be able to get that fixed. 5 minutes quick. YouTube live. Can you hear me okay? Let me know. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. Going to be talking Thursday night football a bit early tonight. We can hear us. Okay, that is good to know, Kylo. Always, Luis, how we doing? Jack in the chat, how we doing? We got a great Thursday night football game tonight between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I'm actually going to be at the game tonight, so let's go. I am pumped to see Achane in person. We are speaking some positivity about Achane into existence tonight. He is my most rostered fantasy player. I desperately need him to be healthy tonight. We will see if he's going out there. I think if he starts, you have to start him. If he plays, you have to play him. There is no Raheem Mostert tonight, so obviously that is huge. We are actually projecting Jeff Wilson to lead this backfield in touches in the Walter Picks app tonight, but still have Achane being the better fantasy option. So let me go back to here to Achane. Compare all three of them here. We do have Achane as the best option, assuming he plays. If he doesn't play, obviously that's huge for Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. I do not think Jalen Wright is a great start. Definitely a very high risk, high reward play if you go with Jalen Wright, even if Achane's out. I think the ceiling is probably higher for Jalen Wright than Jeff Wilson. If Achane is out, Achane is questionable in this game. Raheem Mostert is out in this game. Confirmed out with a chest injury. Achane dealing with an ankle injury. Game time decision. It does seem like he's trending towards playing, though, and so you got to put him in your starting lineup if he's playing. Achane is still the type of player that with just 10 touches can score 20 fantasy points. There's not very many guys like Achane. He had a pretty encouraging week 1 in terms of usage. Had the most receptions of any running back in the NFL. 7 catches on just 21 routes. But he was running a route in over half the passing attempts for the Dolphins. He was their third best receiver in week 1. It went Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and then Devon Achane. That's the pecking order for the Dolphins offense. And man, I mean, 3 extremely explosive guys. We're going to be focusing on the Thursday night start sits tonight because we're going to be live from the time I wake up till the time we kick off on Sunday. Make sure you guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you are watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. Dak versus Tua. That's a good Thursday night question right there. Obviously, you know, no discussion needed, guys. Tonight, there's a bunch of them. Josh Allen, Tyreek, Waddle, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Achane if he plays. None of these guys need any discussion. You need to start them no matter what. Tua, I think, is really in that upside is probably worth it tonight conversation. Sorry about that. YouTube live. Give me a sec here. I think he's probably in that upside is worth it conversation, but yeah, I'd probably go Dak over Tua. Dak gets the Saints this week. Saints, Marshawn Lattimore is trending towards not playing, has not practiced this week. That's definitely good news. The Saints are coming off basically a bye week against the Panthers. Do not think they're going to be ready for what the Cowboys are going to bring. I probably would lean Dak over Tua. Definitely a close one, though. Khalil Shakir, Christian Kirk. We'll get to that one in a second. What's up, Sam? Love the early live. Don't really need to start sit, but would love to hear the prop for tonight. I got you, Kylo. You know we got the props ready to cook tonight on Thursday night. Going to the game, I always am more likely to take more props, you know, just myself personally, when I'm going to games. I think it adds to the excitement of the game. So I do have an official prop play tonight, and this is actually only available right now on one platform, though I do think as we get closer to the game, more platforms are going to add it. So I want to get on this one early because I think there's some really good value here in the free prop tonight. I promise you it's not a player that you thought about really probably ever. If ever, definitely not this season. All right, so we're going to filter to the Dolphins game here on the YouTube Live. By the way, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. If you come to the YouTube Live from the TikTok Live, it's a better viewing experience. I can share my screen on YouTube. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. This is right from the Walter Picks app. This is a top edge value play right now in the Walter Picks app. I do imagine this line's probably going to move. It might have already moved. Let me actually double check here the Prize Picks line that I'm seeing live here on my computer just to confirm this line. Want to make sure we get an accurate line here for this free player prop. We got Ty Johnson under, it's live right now on Prize Picks, under 14.5 rushing yards. He had 7 rushing yards in week 1. Man played less than 20% of the snaps in week 1. Sorry, 22% of the snaps week 1, just under 25% of the snaps for Ty Johnson. He is worse than Ray Davis. He only had 2 carries. 2 carries, 1 target in week 1 for Ty Johnson. He could easily not get a single touch in this game. And there's almost no chance he gets more than a few carries. This game also, the Dolphins are favored in this game, which I'm pretty surprised about, but they are at home, short week. I was pretty surprised to see the Bills as underdogs. I would definitely take the Bills if I had to pick a side here. But Ty Johnson, this game script also probably won't be very good for him rushing-wise. I do like James Cook a bunch. I'm on some of his props personally as well. But the official play tonight is Ty Johnson under 14.5 rushing yards. We're 3 for 2. We came pretty close on the Deontay one and on the Tyler Boyd one Sunday. Missed on 2 of those. We crushed the third one on Sunday, which was James Cook over total yards, which was my favorite one on Sunday. So hopefully you guys wrote that one. But yeah, we're going Ty Johnson under 14.5 rushing yards. Lock that one in. And you can find that on Prize Picks, and I'm sure it'll be posted other places soon as well. Coleman or London? Yeah, it's got to be Drake London. I'm playing Drake London over Keon Coleman. I'm playing Christian Kirk over Khalil Shakir too. I saw that one earlier in the chat. So the guys that I think the upside is worth at least considering tonight, but is going to be some tough start sits for a Thursday night. Tua, definitely worth considering. We got him ranked QB 12 in the Walter Picks app right now. Here are the quarterbacks we're recommending over Tua. Obviously, Josh Allen, he ranks as QB 1. He's been the number 1 overall quarterback in fantasy football for 3 of his last 4 seasons. He was number 1 quarterback in week 1 in fantasy football. Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes, Stroud, Kyler, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, I would play over Tua. Anthony Richardson, of course. Joe Burrow is close. Honestly, wouldn't knock you for going Tua over Burrow with how the Bengals are looking right now. I think Fields versus Tua, that's super close. Mayfield versus Tua, that's super close. I'd probably lean Tua in both of those cases. But yeah, I'd play Jared Goff over Tua if I had him. I'd play Dak over Tua if I had him. I'd play Jaden Daniels over Tua as well. And then the other guys are pretty obvious. Otherwise, I'm fine trying out Tua. And again, that's one of the highest projected scoring games of the week. All right, so we got some Achane questions here. Guys, if you have Achane, you got to start Achane if he plays. There's just no way around it, really. ETN's definitely in a scary spot. We got Mason. I think Mason's going to be a smash play again this week, but CMC is still questionable technically. This is totally dependent on if CMC plays. If CMC does not play, then you're playing Jordan Mason over basically everybody. Like there's only 7 running backs we have ranked ahead of Jordan Mason. He had 28 carries in week 1. Insane usage. I think that was the most of any running back in week 1. 58 snaps. That was the 3rd most. He had the 2nd most rushing attempts. Maybe actually Joe Mixon topped him. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't play Achane over Mason. I do think Mason's going to play, and CMC is going to miss 1 more week. I would play Achane over Ford. So yeah, I think you play Achane tonight. You see what happens with Mason, and depending on what happens with Mason, you can go from there. But yeah, you got to start Achane tonight. Sam, I asked in the Discord, but Achane the other day, and I'm still wondering if Wright could mess with the usage rest of season. Yeah, Andrew, I think Wright's just the direct backup to Achane. I'm really not too worried about Wright eating into Achane's workload like at all. Is Wright worthy of a start with Swift as RB2? Yeah, Swift, you got to be fully panicked on. But no, I'm not playing Wright over Swift. Look, Jalen Wright, he is a boom-bust dart throw tonight if Achane sits. Jalen Wright is the direct backup to Devon Achane. I was saying coming out of the NFL draft, he's basically an Achane clone. Jalen Wright, I think he was one of my honorable mentions as top 5 running backs in this draft class. I actually might have had him ranked number 5. But he's basically an Achane clone. Like he has the same 99th percentile speed as Achane. He has the same receiving upside as Achane. Jalen Wright never had a huge workload in college. Like I don't know if the ceiling for Jalen Wright is quite as high as what we've seen the ceiling be for Achane. But I do think if Achane doesn't play, Jalen Wright is the one slotting into that role. Jeff Wilson is the direct backup to Raheem Mostert. I do think Jeff Wilson's probably going to start the game no matter what, and probably going to lead this backfield in touches. But still, whether Achane plays or not, If Achane does not play, Jeff Wilson's a top 15 running back option, probably should be started. Pretty high floor. I think decent ceiling. I think the ceiling for Jalen Wright's actually higher than the ceiling for Jeff Wilson, assuming Achane is out. But the floor is way, way lower. Floor is way lower for Jalen Wright than for Jeff Wilson. Like Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch in week 1, guys. A healthy scratch. That does not bode well for the floor for Jalen Wright. That does not bode confidence in Jalen Wright. And again, I do think Achane is going to play too. So you got to have, the contingency plans, because Achane is a truly questionable player tonight. But again, we're speaking positivity into existence because I desperately need Achane to play tonight. All right, we got a question here saying, something about the app. Where's Worthy? This is not a Thursday night. This is a Thursday night start sit. If you guys are having any issues with the app, we did just release an update for the app that will almost definitely resolve your issue. So go to the App Store, find the update. Do I start Waddle, DK, or Najee for flex? Not a Thursday night question. Oh, it is a Thursday night question. Yeah, this one's probably Waddle. I definitely want to play Waddle tonight. I think Waddle's a no-brainer play against the Bills. Easily could end up being the number 1 fantasy player from this game. We got him as a top 12 receiver. Here, yeah, you got to start Waddle. In almost all situations, you have to start Waddle. You have to start Tyreek. Obviously, not going to say any Tyreek questions. You got to start James Cook. I also do not panic with Dalton Kincaid. Don't panic about Dalton Kincaid. I'm starting Kincaid with a lot of confidence tonight. It's a little scary just because of how Evan Ingram played last week against the Dolphins. 1 catch for Ingram. By far would have been his worst game of last season for Evan Ingram against the Dolphins last week. But I'm still not panicking on Kincaid. I still think Kincaid's going to have some huge games. I still think his floor is about as high as it gets. So yeah, you do got to start Kincaid. And like also just good luck finding a better option than Kincaid on the waiver wire. You're not going to find one. Do you want to start Jordan Akins over Dalton Kincaid? Like, no, you're not going to do that. Do you want to start Isaiah Likely over Kincaid? Absolutely not. I do not want to start Isaiah Likely or Colby Parkinson or Noah Fant or Taysom Hill or Juwan Johnson over Kincaid. So no, we're not benching Kincaid. You got to start Kincaid, even despite the lackluster performance from Evan Ingram last week. Do you have a backup prop in case platforms don't put it up? Yeah, so if the Ty Johnson one doesn't go up, I do really like the James Cook total yards again this week. The floor for James Cook yards is so high. They're setting his lines close to his floor. Last week, that's what I said was my favorite prop of the Sunday, and he had 103 yards in that game. Really strong usage. He ran a route in over half the passing plays. This Bills team, by the way, this is a run-first Bills team. Do not get it mixed. This is an extremely run-heavy team. That is also a little bit concerning for Kincaid. This game should be pretty high scoring. I do have the Bills winning tonight, but the reason I love the James Cook total yards is there's so many outs for James Cook to get there. Because no matter what happens in the game script, James Cook is going to be extremely involved. He's one of the most efficient receiving backs in the NFL. He was top 5 in yards per reception last season on decent volume. But then also on a run-first team, he can be efficient on the ground too. And this Dolphins defense didn't look great against Tank Bigsby last week. And Travis Etienne fumbled right at the goal line, almost had a decent game too. So James Cook, I think, is just locked and loaded to get 20-plus touches basically every week. Whether the Bills fall behind, he's going to get involved in the passing game, which is great because he's an extremely efficient receiver, or the Bills get ahead and he gets leaned on the ground like he did last week, 19 carries for James Cook last week. Again, extremely run-heavy team. So yeah, I do like the total yards for James Cook also. I like the Kincaid props as well. I think those are a little too low. Why is Kincaid going to be so good? Well, Kincaid is arguably the best receiver that the Bills have. And it didn't show week 1. Dawson Knox ate into his workload a little bit, 2.1 points for Kincaid, only 1 catch, 11 yards. But that was because he was also part of the reason of that. You got to take the context of what happened last week for Kincaid. He goes up against the Arizona Cardinals, and it was clear if you go back and watch some of the offensive snaps. And again, part of the problem is that the Bills are extremely run heavy. He only ran 20 routes last week. And on so many of those routes that Kincaid was running, he was double or triple covered, like the clear focal point for the defense. And so they took him out of the game, and that just led to the ball going elsewhere. And that's going to happen for certain guys throughout the season. But the underlying usage was actually pretty encouraging for Dalton Kincaid. He ran a route. So he was out there for over 80% of the snaps. It wasn't like he was coming off the field for Dawson Knox. This is the thing with Dawson Knox, that I was actually pretty concerned about Dawson Knox heading into the season, potentially eating into the playing time for Kincaid. But he really isn't eating into the playing time. He's more so just, another receiver out there. Like playing alongside Kincaid is not nearly as bad as replacing Kincaid, like we're seeing with Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet, for example, where Cole Kmet's just coming off the field in place of Gerald Everett. Like, you just can't have that for fantasy football. But as long as Kincaid's out there, he's going to be one of the top targets for Josh Allen in an offense that should score a lot of points. The volume is a little bit scary just because this offense is going to be really run heavy, but we got him as tight end 6 in the Walter Picks app heading into week 2. You got to be starting him 100%. There's no way you're going to find a tight end better than Kincaid on the waiver wire. Keon or Lad. No need to spam, by the way, in the YouTube chat. No need to spam in the TikTok chat. I'm going to get to hundreds of start sits in this live stream. We are just getting started, and we're doing this live stream early today. Usually I do it, around 6:30 Eastern PM. I'm actually going to the game tonight. We're going to the game tonight. That's why I'm recording early. Pumped to see this one live. This will be one of the few games I get to go to this season. Really looking forward to it. I think this one's got to be Lad. Definitely a close call here between Keon and Lad, but Lad looked great in week 1. The matchup maybe arguably a little bit better for Keon Coleman tonight. The Dolphins are favored in this game. Again, I like the Bills in this game. I do like the Bills in this game. Can you explain why bench Wright and start Jeff Wilson? Yeah, Jeff Wilson was active last week. Jalen Wright wasn't. I think that the floor is so much higher for Jeff Wilson. I would be shocked if Jeff Wilson didn't lead the backfield in touches if Achane was out. I think Jeff Wilson probably has a decent chance to lead this backfield in touches even if Achane is in. It's really wide range of outcomes in this backfield, though, because who knows how serious this injury for Achane really is. I am trying to push some positivity into the world with Achane because I know I'm going to start him in every single league I have him if he's active. If the injury is not that serious, Achane could have a massive night. If the injury is limiting him a little bit and he's active, Jeff Wilson could have a massive night. If Achane is inactive, I think Jeff Wilson leads the backfield in touches. Jalen Wright has a high ceiling because he's the more exciting, explosive player, but he's not gonna beat Jeff Wilson in touches. Just a boom bust option. Wright is a boom bust option. Ladd McConkey, I would take over Keon Coleman. A little bit scary that this Chargers game might just be extremely run heavy, but McConkey looked great, guys, in week 1. He's definitely the most exciting pass catcher that the Chargers have. All right. Waddle or Olave? Yeah, you got to start Waddle. There's no benching Waddle. And I actually do like Olave this week. I think that is an interesting spot for Olave, but yeah, you gotta be starting Waddle in basically all situations. What's up, boss? Levy, how we doing? Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. Appreciate everyone in here. I'm gonna get to so many start sits. It's not always gonna be in order, but I'm gonna try to get to the most pertinent Thursday night start sits so that every single person that is thinking about something on a Thursday night tonight, that I address that concern as best as possible. That's my goal on these live streams, on these Thursday night lives, prioritizing the Thursday night start sits. Like I see Waddle versus Adams. Start Jalen Waddle, guys. Start Jalen Waddle in one of the projected high score games of the week. Waddle or ETN, happy PR. This one's easily Waddle as well. Waddle or Rashee Rice. That one, I think I'd go Rashee Rice. I really don't think you could be benching Rashee Rice right now. Yeah, we got Rashee Rice here in a PPR format. You can't bench Rashee Rice right now. It seems like Marquise Brown's trending towards being out again. Not that honestly would change my answer here that much. You can't be benching Rashee Rice as a top 10 wide receiver option. Waddle, Rice, Chase, Garrett, Wilson. Oh, gosh. Yeah, you probably need to start all of those guys ahead of Waddle. Here's the receivers I'm starting ahead of Waddle this week. Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek. End of list. I'm starting Waddle over Godwin. I'm starting Waddle over Neighbors. I'm starting Waddle over Evans, DJ Moore, Drake London, Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen. I'm starting Waddle over Nico, over Devontae Smith, over Olave, over Devontae Adams. Obviously starting him over Marvin Harrison Jr., who I do think will bounce back this week. I'm starting him over Tank Dell, Brandon Ayuk, Amari Cooper. The list goes on and on. Only 10 receivers that I would argue over Jalen Waddle this week. Waddle or Drake? Yeah, it's got to be Waddle. How could you possibly start Drake over Waddle after week 1, especially in this matchup against the Bills? Shakir or Deontay PPR? That's a good one. Yeah, so some tough decisions around the Bills receivers. The problem for the Bills receivers, guys, is the Bills are a run-first team. They are an extremely run-heavy team, especially if they get leads. Like last week, they were actually trailing for the whole first half, and they still were extremely run-heavy. Super concerning for a lot of these pass catchers for the Bills from a week-to-week basis. Like I think Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman, and you can even toss Dawson Knox and Matt Collins if you really want to into that list. But really, it's Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. Curtis Samuel was barely part of the game plan last week. We'll see if that increases. Probably not in a short week dealing with turf toe. But Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, they're going to be boom bust options in fantasy, guys, because they're on a run first team on an offense that's going to spread the ball around a lot to a bunch of different guys. James Cook, Kincaid are both going to get a significant amount of the target share. There's going to be weeks where Mac Hollins, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Curtis Samuel, Ray Davis, all these guys are going to be getting some targets. So it's going to be not a consolidated target share on a team that wants to run. So yeah, I do worry a little bit about the floor for Shakir and Keon Coleman. I just missed now who the other person on the Shakir question was. Let's look at the rankings list here and just talk about the guys that are around Shakir and Keon Coleman. I do think I would play, well, we actually had them back to back here in the rankings. I would personally play Keon Coleman over Khalil Shakir, but it's definitely close. I'd play McConkey over both of them, Sutton over both of them. I'd play Brian Thomas Jr. over both of them. Tyler Lockett, honestly, is a close one for me. I don't feel great about Tyler Lockett heading into week 2. Feels like he outproduced expectations a little bit. Tough matchup for him against the Pats. I'd probably play both these Bills receivers over Tyler Lockett. Brandon Cooks is a close one. I'd probably lean Cooks there. Judy is an interesting one here as well. I actually think that the whole Browns passing attack is a little underrated heading into week 2. They had the second most pass attempts in the NFL. They don't have to play the Cowboys defensive line this week. I wouldn't knock you for going Judy over Shakir or Coleman, but I personally would probably go Coleman, then Judy, then Shakir. And then all these other guys are pretty easy starts over Shakir and Keon Coleman. Christian Kirk, Xavier Worthy, Calvin Ridley. Ridley's honestly a pretty scary one playing against the Jets, but I do think he had a pretty underrated good usage in week 1. Terry McLaurin, I'd play over these guys. Pickens, Metcalf, Diggs, all these other guys are pretty obvious. I do have a free prop for us tonight, Hadley, as always. And this one's actually a really sneaky one. Super sneaky free prop on the live. We're 3-2 on the free player props. Make sure you guys download the Walter Picks app too. Use the prop evaluator in the Walter Picks app. Link is in the YouTube description. And I'll show you exactly how I use it here. I'm going to filter to, first of all, tonight's game, because that's the game. I'm going to the game tonight. That's why we're doing this live stream a little early tonight. And I'm going to see Ty Johnson. Prize Picks put out an early Ty Johnson line, and this is a horrible line for Prize Picks. Like, the under here is fantastic. There's a chance that Ty Johnson does not get a single carry in this game. He had 2 carries last week for 7 yards. Ray Davis is absolutely a better running back than him. James Cook is leagues ahead of Ty Johnson. And there's also a chance that the Bills are behind in this game. They're forced to throw a little bit more than they want to. Again, this team wants to be a run-first team. They were trailing most of the game last week, and they still leaned run heavy. But Ty Johnson didn't benefit from that. Ty Johnson had 7 yards on 2 carries, played less than a fourth of the snaps. Gotta like the under here for Ty Johnson. Under 14.5 rushing yards. That is the free player prop on the live today. Right now it's on Prize Picks only, I think, but it will be out on other places too soon. If you can't find this one, I do also like the James Cook stuff tonight. The total yards for James Cook, I do like this line as well. The floor for James Cook's total yards is just so high. Like, what's the worst case scenario total yards wise for James Cook? It's got to be in the 50s or 60s in this game. And no matter what happens in the game, James Cook's going to be very involved because he's one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. He was top 5 in the NFL last season on a yards per reception basis on a lot of catches, like high volume, high efficiency in the receiving game last season for James Cook. Week 1, he sees 19 carries. No matter what happens in this game, James Cook's going to get 20 plus touches, like almost definitely, as long as he stays healthy, of course, which is always a little bit scary with the overs. But yeah, I like James Cook over 83.5 total yards as well. That'd be my second pick. But the official pick tonight for me, Ty Johnson, under 14.5 rushing yards. I think there's a lot of value there right now on Prize Picks. All right, let's get back to some of these start sit questions. Going to get to hundreds of start sits. We're going to get to as many start sits as I possibly can, but we're going to prioritize the Thursday night questions. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. We got to get over 100 likes on this live, guys. We got over 250 people in here. We don't even have 100 likes. Smash the like button. I promise it helps me so much. All right, so the big news to follow tonight, and man, I'm in 8 different high-stakes fantasy leagues. I have Devon Achane in 6 of them. I'm going to be staring at my phone screen, walking into the stadium tonight. I'll probably get into the stadium early because I like going in early, but I'm desperately praying for Devon Achane to play tonight. We're speaking positivity into existence tonight. I do think you got to be a little bit concerned that even if he plays, he's not going to get his full workload. There's definitely a concern with this. But if he plays, he doesn't need a full workload to smash in fantasy. That's not why you drafted Achane. You didn't draft Achane because you thought he was going to get 20 plus touches. You drafted Achane because you knew he could get 20 plus points with only 10 touches. That's who Achane is. And that in the world where he got 20 touches, he could be better than Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football. That was the whole thesis for Achane, but he doesn't need 20 touches to be a must start in fantasy. So yeah, I'm starting Achane no matter what. I think you have to if you spend an early pick on him and he plays. but absolutely concerning that he might not get his full workload for sure. I think it wouldn't be shocking to see Jeff Wilson lead this backfield in touches, even if Achane plays, and then Achane splitting that Achane role between him and Jalen Wright. And Jalen Wright's almost like a Achane clone, extremely athletic, good receiving back, like low volume, good receiving back. Jalen Wright. So I am excited to see him in his first action tonight too, but I am hoping and expecting Achane to play. I am leaning towards him playing, which is why I put him in my must start video, because I do think you have to start Achane if he plays. All right, but if Achane is inactive, would you go Jeff Wilson or Brian Robinson? Yes, you can't bench Brian Robinson this week. You absolutely cannot be benching Brian Robinson against the New York Football Giants. Brian Robinson's coming off a great game against the Bucs. Not only did Brian Robinson get a rushing touchdown in week 1, he also was kind of surprisingly used in the passing game. 17% target share for B-Rob, 4 targets. He only ran 8 routes. So he got targeted on 4 of those. Ended the game with 18 points. Ranked top 15 in week 1. Now he gets the Giants. Yeah, you got to be starting Brian Robinson here, I think. Even if Achane's out, I think I would go B-Rob over Jeff Wilson. What do you think about Stevenson? Yeah, I'm selling high on Stevenson if I can. I do think that the Pats offense is still going to struggle to score points, which is still going to be a problem for Stevenson rest of season, but definitely my do not draft reminder, Stevenson, not aging well after 1 week. James Cook or James Conner? Yeah, you got to start both those guys for tonight. Tua or Kyler? Yeah, you got to start Kyler over Tua. Got to start Kyler over Tua for sure. I want to talk about James Cook and James Conner here for a second as well, but here's all the quarterbacks I'm starting over Tua. There's 11 of them. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Mahomes, Stroud. Those are easy. I think Kyler's an easy start too. Really good matchup for him against the Rams. Jaden Daniels, Dak, and Goff. Those are the 3 maybe that people are struggling with tonight. I would start all 3 of those guys over Tua. Then it's Tua. I'd start Tua over Baker, over Fields, over Stafford, over Caleb Williams, over Purdy, over Trevor Lawrence, over Geno. The rest of the list I think is pretty obvious. But this game could be really high scoring. It's the 3rd highest projected scoring game of the week. Rest of the season, who do I take? Dortch McMillan or Curtis Samuel? I think it's McMillan. I think McMillan clearly has the high ceiling of these 3 guys. I'm actually pretty comfortable dropping Curtis Samuel right now, which is tough. I was excited about him this season ever since the turf toe. I think his outlook just really took a big dive, and hopefully he can get back to close to full health. But he barely played. He barely played in week 1. Curtis Samuel had no real role in week 1. It's hard to expect anything of him tonight. He had 2 catches, 15 yards on 17 snaps in week 1. Now a short week for the guy with turf toe. He had 3 air yards. He had 1 more air yard than target. I mean, just not an exciting role here for Curtis Samuel. And you need him to be an every down player for him to be startable in fantasy. And again, I think this Bills offense, they clearly want to be run heavy. Clearly want to be a run heavy offense. And they're going to spread the ball around to so many different receivers. Kincaid or Likely? Got to go Kincaid over Likely. Got to go Kincaid over Likely. From Finland, and the game starts at 3:15 a.m. in my time, so Achane risky start tonight. Yeah, I think you gotta have some faith in your early picks. I do think that Achane's going to start tonight, but man, yeah, if you got to make a call from Finland and at 3:15 a.m., you either got to set an alarm for 3 a.m., which that's what I would do. Every Wednesday morning, I've had an edge in my leagues every single season for the last 3 seasons. I wake up at 4 a.m. on Wednesdays because I know that's when waivers end and free agency begins in my fantasy leagues. And so I don't need to use my waiver priority to go add guys or use my fab budget to go add guys. I could just add them for free. So every Wednesday morning, I'm up at 4 a.m. for fantasy. So I would just recommend set your alarm for 3 a.m. and then make the start sit decision then. But yeah, I would leave Achane in if I had to decide, because I do think Achane is going to play tonight. It does seem like he's trending that way. He did finish he went back in the game last week after this injury occurred, which also is a good sign for Achane. Sometimes, the adrenaline of the game can help guys with that, and it gets worse afterwards. But yeah, I do lean toward Achane playing tonight based on everything we've heard so far. But yeah, Jalen McMillan, not only is he a better play this week, Dortch is more of a floor play. I think he led this team in targets. Yeah, 26% target share for Dortch in week 1, 6 catches, but only 47 yards. Not a super exciting role, 71 air yards. Actually, a higher percentage of the team's air yards than I would have thought. Kind of like the Wando Robinson role, though, in this offense. Show the bets for tonight. Yeah, so I got you with the free player prop of the night. We're 3 for 2, off to a decent start with the free props this season. I like Ty Johnson, under 14.5 rushing yards. This one's up on Prize Picks right now. I think it'll be up elsewhere very soon. He had 2 carries, 7 yards last week, played under a fourth of the snaps. He's worse than Ray Davis. He's worse than James Cook. He could easily get 0 carries. Why Kincaid? Because Kincaid is the best receiving option that Josh Allen has. He's the best receiver on the Bills. So yeah, I want to start the best receiver on the Bills in a game that could be really high scoring, despite the team wanting to be run first. I'd play Dobbins over both the other Bills receivers, Shakir and Keon Coleman. You got to feel really good about J.K. Dobbins after week 1. Incredibly efficient. He looked like he's always looked every single time he's ever been healthy, which was incredibly efficient. 23 fantasy points. He finished as RB4 on the week, scored a rushing touchdown, 135 rushing yards. He had a ridiculous 13.5 yards per carry. But honestly, even more encouraging for Dobbins, I felt like, was the role in the passing game. 12.5% target share, 3 targets. That was a better receiving role than we saw for J.K. Dobbins. He ran a route in over half the passing plays for the Chargers. That was also really encouraging. Now they get the Panthers. He's a smash play against the Panthers. I do think that they're not going to overload him. They're not going to overload J.K. Dobbins. I think they're aware that they don't want to give too much work to the guy with such a significant injury history. And that's actually pretty smart and probably good for his longevity this season. But yeah, J.K. Dobbins is going to be efficient enough, I think, to be good. Swift or Elliott? Not a Thursday night question here, but I would go Swift. Sam, do you think this is a fair trade offer? I give away Evan Ingram, Olave, and Spears for Kupp and Achane. Yeah, do that. Do that instantly. This is a great trade. Yeah, 4-point difference. But if you sink your league, there's almost definitely a good trade for you. Cooper Kupp is like a high risk, high reward guy. Right now, he projects as a top 3 wide receiver. We got him as wide receiver 3 this week. He's high risk just because of the age factor. Like, can he really sustain this insane of a workload the whole season at age 31? I'm not so sure. But if he can, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver. And he's definitely a top 3 receiver heading into week 2. So, yeah, I'm down to buy Cooper Kupp and take that risk. Is it dumb to start Coleman over Singletary? No, I don't think that's that dumb. That's actually a pretty close one. And I do like Coleman a bit more than Shakir, just slightly. Singletary was on my do not draft list. Just such an unexciting ceiling for Devin Singletary. He actually had a better week 1 than I would have expected, 9.2 points, because he had 4 catches. But guys, 37 rushing yards, 15 receiving yards. Didn't even crack 50. He had 52 total yards, despite playing 70% of the snaps. The usage was good. The efficiency was bad. The team couldn't score points. This is going to be the problem for Devin Singletary. But he did actually catch more passes than I was expecting. I thought Tyrone Tracy would have a bigger role in the receiving game than he did week 1, but that also could change as the course of the season goes on. But yeah, you got to play Keon Coleman. Definitely a higher ceiling for Coleman. I feel like similar floors, honestly, like a slightly safer floor maybe for Singletary just because of the volume. But I'm cool going with Keon. Achane or Connor? I'd probably go Connor over in that one. James Cook, Nico, or Dobbins? Yeah, you got to start James Cook. The floor is just so high for Cook, and I think the ceiling's decent too. The problem for James Cook has always been the touchdowns. But I think he actually had a couple red zone touches last week, just didn't convert them. Yeah, look, he had 1 goal line carry, 3 rushing attempts in the red zone last week. I think the role for James Cook is extremely solid. Nico, obviously a really good play in PPR too. Don't like benching him. And then Dobbins, I would definitely play after both of these guys. But yeah, the answer here is James Cook. Highest floor and similar ceiling to both these guys. Start James Cook. Start Kincaid over Likely. Start Kincaid over Colby Parkinson. Start Kincaid over all of the options you're going to see on your waiver wire. Standard scoring. Keep up the great work, Jack. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Shout out to everybody in this live right now, by the way, guys. If you have not checked out the Walter Picks app yet, I do not know what you are waiting for. The link is in the YouTube description. The link is in the TikTok bio. It's going to help you crush in fantasy. Use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out. I do appreciate that. I got it up on the screen on the YouTube live right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, it is a better viewing experience on the YouTube live. Link to that is also in the TikTok bio. Same information with better viewing experience. I'm sharing a screen right now to the start sit question that we're talking about. I can pull up comments on the screen too, like Waddle, Devontae, or Godwin. Standard league scoring settings matter. Let me know the scoring settings in the start sit questions. They matter a ton. That's part of the reason the Walter Picks app is so powerful, is it adjusts for all your different scoring settings. And I think the answer here is going to be Waddle, no matter what. I do think Devontae probably gets a pretty big boost, though, in standard leagues because his touchdown ceiling is pretty high, whereas like Godwin definitely gets a big downgrade in standard leagues because he's more of a PPR upside guy, PPR floor guy. He did score a touchdown last week, though, and he is in a pretty high-scoring environment this week. But yeah, the answer here is Waddle. I think in all scoring settings, the answer is Waddle. 16-man PPR, man. 16-man league is rough. I'm in a couple 14-team leagues. It is bleak out there in the 14-man waiver wires. So I can only imagine 16-man. And if you're following the 32 Creator League, I mean, someone literally dropped over 1,000 fab on Tyler Johnson in the 32 Creator League. Which two should I start? Deontay, Jaden Reed, or Khalil Shakir? Yeah, so this one's, God, Jaden Reed with Malik Willis is rough. Also, I cannot believe the Packers are trying to say that there's a chance Jordan Love suits up this week. Like, got to be no chance that happens. I'm operating under the assumption like 100% chance that Malik Willis is starting. Obviously, different world if Jordan Love is starting. This one's super tight. I do think you should start Shakir tonight. Honestly, Jaden Reed's the only Packers receiver you can even possibly consider starting with Malik Willis under helm. I don't want to start any of these receivers, though. Malik Willis is not it, guys. Malik Willis cannot throw accurately. He cannot operate a functional offense. I think this team's going to be very, very run-heavy this week against the Colts. But Jaden Reed can still do well with targets around the line of scrimmage. I think he honestly bodes best for this type of offense. It's probably going to be run with Malik Willis. Deontay had a horrible week 1, but I think the usage was actually still maybe fine. He had 2 catches, 19 yards. Man, only 66% of the snaps is actually pretty surprising, but still a 20% target share for Deontay Johnson. I kind of think I leaned Deontay or Jaden Reed with the quarterback situation. Not that Deontay Johnson's quarterback situation is much better. If Achane doesn't play, Achane's playing, man. We're speaking it into existence on this live stream tonight. Achane is playing. I hope. He's definitely questionable, though. He's a true game time decision. I do actually expect him to play, though. That is my actual analysis. It does seem like he's trending towards play, which is why I think he's a must start if he does play. Monty or Ford? Yeah, this one's close. I think it's probably Monty. If this is a PPR league, though, I actually think it's extremely close. Jerome Ford, like, really underrated usage in week 1. We got Ford here in the PPR format. I think if it's half PPR or standard, you got to go Monty. Monty's definitely a better chance at a touchdown, but Ford had 18.9 PPR points in week 1, scored a rushing touchdown, also had 6 catches. Wow. I mean, yeah, PPR, you have to be playing Ford. 75% snap share. He was a workhorse running back in week 1. Pierre Strong. Pierre Thomas, for those old enough to remember him. Pierre Strong was the backup, not Deontay Foreman, to Jerome Ford in week 1 too, which is even better there for Jerome Ford. Hey, Sam, if Achane is out, should I start Jeff Wilson over Javonte, Bigsby, and Madison? Yeah, I would do this. Alex, this is the spot where I think having Jeff Wilson as a handcuff to Achane makes a lot of sense. Kincaid or Evan Ingram? Gosh, you're playing Kincaid against the team that just shut down Evan Ingram. I would go Evan Ingram over Kincaid. I have more confidence in Evan Ingram over Kincaid. And part of the reason I say that, too, is just the Bills want to be a run-heavy team. They were really run-heavy in week 1 despite trailing most of that game. They were really run-heavy in the back half of last season, too, under the same offensive coordinator. But, yeah, Jeff Wilson has a pretty good floor and ceiling if Achane is out. So I like going him over Javonte, Bigsby, and Madison. Javonte might have just straight up lost the job already in week 1. Definitely panic time for Javonte Williams. 3.3 points, only 32% of the carries for Javonte in week 1 cannot be trusted here in week 2, especially against the Steelers. Jaleel McLaughlin was better than him in week 1. I mean, the good news for him is that Estime's on IR now, so one less guy to compete with, but you can't start Bigsby or Madison really with a lot of confidence either. Rashee Rice, Mike Evans, or Jordan Mason in the flex spot, PPR Harper. This is not a Thursday night question. We are prioritizing the Thursday night start sits because this is the Thursday night live stream. I'm doing a little early. It's not really nighttime yet, but I'm actually going to the game tonight. We're riding to the game tonight. We're heading out very soon. Right after this live, I'm heading to the game. Very excited. Going to record some content there as well. So you'll see Hard Rock Stadium on the TikTok and YouTube feed soon. Probably will go live from the stadium, before the game on TikTok live too. But we got to get the Thursday night starts in because there's some difficult Thursday night starts. It's Waddle versus James Conner is not one of them. You got to start Jalen Waddle, and I like James Conner against the Rams this week. But if that's PPR league, do not bench Jalen Waddle tonight. It's actually pretty close. The floor for James Conner is really, really strong. He had really good usage week 1 too, as expected. 19.3 points, was running back 8 on the week. But guys, Waddle's usage week 1 was also really strong. He had 16.2 points, 4.3 yards per out run that ranked top 5 in the NFL. Only a 14% target share, still popped off. This is the thing with all these guys on the Dolphins. Same thing applies to Achane. He doesn't need a ton of volume to pop off. 5 catches, 109 yards for Waddle in week 1. But yeah, I'm not benching Rashee Rice in basically any situation. So that's the answer to this question. Pick one here. Christian Kirk, Khalil Shakir, Jameson Williams. Yes, Jameson Williams. Waymo Jamo must be started. Should I start Jordan Mason or James Cook? Oh, God, that's actually a really, really tough one. I think I would lean James Cook just because there's still a chance CMC plays. And if CMC plays, Jordan Mason is definitely not startable. And I do really like the floor and ceiling for James Cook tonight. Like, I actually like his props tonight, too. Is Miami defense a play today? No, Nikhil, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Definitely not against the Bills. This could be it should be a really, really high-scoring game. Why start Josh Allen? No discussion needed there. Achane or Ayuk. That one's a really interesting one. I think if Achane plays, I'd go Achane. There's definitely some inherent risk, though, with Achane. God, this one's close. You got to wait and see if Achane plays. Obviously, if he doesn't play, you're going Ayuk. If Achane plays, there's still some inherent risk that he might not get his full workload, and they just protect him a little bit. But I personally think I'd go Achane over Ayuk. Ayuk did not have a great start week one. He still seems like he's getting his conditioning up. 4.8 points for Ayuk in week one. Only ran 24 routes. 5 targets. Any chance I'm starting Shakir over DK this week? Worry about the Christian Gonzalez shadow for DK. Yeah, you got to be pretty nervous for the whole Seahawks offense this week. The Pats are one of the best defenses in the NFL. The Patriots have one of the best defenses in the NFL. This isn't that surprising to me as a Pats fan. Like, I had a feeling this could be one of those years again where the Pats defense outscores their offense. Like, I think that's actually live still to happen. The Pats defense, it could be top 5 in the league. I think they're definitely top 10. And the secondary has a huge piece in that. You still got to go Metcalf over Shakir, though. I think you still got to go Metcalf over Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is not like this locked-in high-floor guy. He did well week 1, 13.2 points. He only had 3 catches, though. A lot of this came after the catch. Not a lot of air yards, a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage for Shakir. By the way, the Bills' offense, I feel like is a lot different than it used to be. I'm not sure people, if you didn't watch the whole Bills game in week 1 and watch their games closely in the back half of last season, this is a run-first team that gets the ball out really fast. There's not as much in this offense as there used to be of Josh Allen dropping back, keeping plays alive, and having huge plays, deep down the field. This is a lot of very quick passes, a lot of running, a lot of really quick passes around the line of scrimmage, and then yards after the catch from guys like James Cook, guys like Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel. Ray Davis, I think will have some work tonight too. If no Achane starts, Zeke or Jeff Wilson PPR, yeah, I want nothing to do with Zeke. I'm definitely starting Jeff Wilson in that scenario. Achane or Waddle, gotta go Waddle. Ford or Tank Dell, that's a pretty close one too. I think I'd probably lean Tank. Why no Jalen Wright? Yeah, so I'm out on Jalen Wright as a start in pretty much all leagues. He's a high ceiling play, definitely a high ceiling. I think the floor is close to 0 points, though. He was inactive last week. He was a healthy scratch last week. And I lean towards Achane being healthy enough to play tonight. I think Jalen Wright is the direct backup to Achane. He's basically an Achane clone. Like, he's actually a really exciting player, really explosive, really athletic, good receiver. Jalen Wright. So, won't be surprised to see him get work tonight. I'm actually excited. I'm going to the game tonight, excited to see him in his first NFL action. I do think he'll be active and be involved in the game, whether or not Achane plays. But if Achane doesn't play, I still think Jeff Wilson's probably the primary goal line back, probably going to be the back that leads the backfield in touches. It's just a really low floor for Wright. I would actually argue he has a higher ceiling than Jeff Wilson, but the floor is the reason I think he's a must bench. I think you're going to be able to find guys with a much better floor in your lineup than Jalen Wright, even if Achane's out. So yeah, I would go Jeff Wilson over Jalen Wright if I had to decide. But again, I do think Achane's going to play too. And if Achane plays, I really think Jalen Wright's far off the radar in terms of start-sit decisions. I actually have him rostered in a bunch of leagues. I actually think Jalen Wright is worth a bench spot in a lot of leagues. Again, I think the ceiling's higher. Like, if I had to choose for rest of season, do I want to use a roster spot on Jalen Wright or Jeff Wilson? It's Jalen Wright for sure. The ceiling's way, way, way higher for Jalen Wright. Again, he could be an Achane clone. He is the direct backup to Achane. So if Achane has a serious injury, I think Jalen Wright could win fantasy league. That's why I was taking him in best ball drafts. That's why I have him on my bench. But I do not want to start him tonight before we see him and how much work he gets after being a healthy scratch in week 1. And again, I think Achane's going to be active tonight too. London or Shakir. Yeah, I got to go Drake London over Shakir. I'm not fully panicked about Drake London. I am fully panicked about Kirk Cousins and what that might mean for Drake London, but I still think you got to go London over Shakir just after 1 week. Shakir, Calvin Ridley, that one's really close too. I do think you got to go Ridley. Scary spot this week for Ridley, but the underlying usage for Calvin Ridley was actually really strong here in week 1. He had 8 fantasy points. He had the 3rd most air yards in the NFL, 160 air yards. We got a flex question here. Worthy, Moss, Swift, or Garrett Wilson? Oh, Jeff Wilson, sorry. Flexing running back 2. Yeah, so if Achane doesn't play, I'm fine going Jeff Wilson here if Achane doesn't play. If Achane does play, I'm not as excited about Jeff Wilson. I think you probably go Swift here and Worthy. You should definitely start Worthy in this one. I don't know if you guys saw the Bengals corner saying all Xavier Worthy has is speed, just running in a straight line. Well, when you're the fastest player in the NFL, maybe all you need is speed. Also, he's definitely got more than speed. He was an extremely, extremely productive receiver in college outside of just the speed. So Xavier Worthy probably going to pop off again this week. Xavier Worthy is like the ideal flex option in fantasy. I do think he's going to be a boom bust guy, right? He only had 3 touches week 1. I won't be surprised to see that go up, though. He did play almost 80% of the snaps. Guys, Xavier Worthy was not coming off the field. Doesn't sound like Marquise Brown's going to suit up this week again, too. But even if Marquise Brown suits up, I don't think that's going to take Xavier Worthy off the field very much. I think that's going to get Justin Watson off the field. So, yeah, I like Xavier Worthy as a really high ceiling flex every single week. I would play Keenan Allen over Keon Coleman and Shakir very easily. I play Ayuk over Shakir pretty easily. Ladd or Waddle, do not bench Jalen Waddle. Guys, don't bench Waddle tonight. If Achane doesn't play, Pittman or London? God, I think it's probably Pittman. Sorry, I know I just skipped over that question there. Sam, should I drop Javonte for right? I have Achane. Yeah, I'm fine with this, Andrew. I think I'm fine with this. Like it's a bit aggressive to drop, Javonte after 1 week where you probably drafted him, relatively early in your draft in the first 10 rounds. How are you going to get excited about this week 1 from Javonte, though? I'm not so sure. 5% target share, only saw a third of the carries, 3.3 points. Got outproduced by Jaleel McLaughlin in this one, who I just think is straight up a better running back based on week 1. I don't know. That's a close one. It's a floor ceiling thing, though. And again, the way I operate, I'm trying to win my leagues, not just avoid last place. I think Jalen Wright has a better chance if something were to seriously happen to Achane. Dobbins or Jeff Wilson. If Achane is out, that's a close one too. I probably would go Dobbins over Jeff Wilson still there. I do. If Achane doesn't play, I'm playing ETN over Jalen Wright for sure. Guys, I'm pretty skeptical about Jalen Wright being a must start. Sam, just to clarify from earlier, would you start Achane over Brian Robinson? Walter has it really close. I would start Achane over Brian Robinson. Yeah, if Achane plays tonight, I'm starting Achane. Basically in all leagues, if Achane is active, I think you just have to start him. There's kind of no way around it, because the whole reason you drafted Achane wasn't because you thought he was going to see this massive workload. It's because he was the most efficient player we've ever seen this season. We've never seen such an efficient player. And so because of that efficiency, he doesn't need 20 touches. And Mostert's out too. Mostert's out, which is not something to overlook here in tonight's game either. Mostert got half the work last game. So yeah, I think you got to start Achane if he's active. And again, I do think he's going to be active. We're speaking that one into existence tonight. I'll be pretty sad if I have Achane on 6 of my 8 high-stakes fantasy leagues. I go to the one game I get to go to this season, Achane's not even going to play. Sam, just to clarify from earlier, that's what I would do there. Tua or Burrow? Yeah, so I'd go Tua over Burrow, personally. I think that's like right where the line is for me. I don't know how you can have like any confidence in the Bengals right now. They just lost the Pats. Obviously, Pats good defense, but horrible offense. We have Burrow just slightly ahead of Tua in the Walter Picks app ranks. I personally would go Tua over Burrow in a game that should be really high scoring. Obviously, the Burrow gets the Chiefs this week. That game could be high scoring too. But yeah, I would go Tua over Burrow. Underdog, just put Ty Johnson 14.5 rushing reception yards. Still take, definitely worse to include the reception yards, but I would still take that. Yeah, I probably will actually take that on Underdog too if they have a promo tonight. I think there's a decent chance Ty Johnson gets under 3 touches total tonight. Jameson Williams or Chris Olave. Oh gosh, here we are in week 2, and Jamo Waymo is absolutely in the conversation here over Chris Olave. Not a Thursday night question, but yeah, I still think I'd probably lean Olave here in week 2, but it's close. Odds Achane plays. So this is a good question. Glad someone asked this question so you get a good sense of how I'm thinking about Achane tonight. I do think Achane plays. I think if Achane plays, you just have to start him. You have to start him in fantasy, and especially if you're in a PPR league, you just have to start Achane. He had 7 catches that led at the NFL last week for running backs. I think I'm putting it at 75-25. I think 75% chance Achane plays, 25% chance he doesn't. Did the injury? Definitely Jamo. Yeah, I don't know about that. I know that Olave struggled week 1. I do think the Saints are going to have to throw a lot in this game, though, against the Cowboys. I think I'd probably lean Olave, but reasonable to start. Definitely still reasonable. to start Waymo Jamo, who I'm definitely very excited about. And I'm buying high on Waymo Jamo right now. Matt Brooks here. Full PPR if Achane is out. Pollard or Wright? Yes, I think you got to go Pollard. Matthew, I think you got to go Pollard here. I'm excited about Jalen Wright. Have fun at Hard Rock, Sam. Appreciate that. Head to Hard Rock Casino and hotel before the game tonight. That's going to be fun. Hard Rock Stadium is a great stadium. Very pumped for this game. Very pumped. And I'm very excited to see Jalen Wright in his first NFL action tonight. I was really excited about Jalen Wright heading into the NFL draft. Of course, the Dolphins are able to get him in the draft, a Devon Achane clone, which I get the urge to want to throw Jalen Wright out there in his first game, similar to the urge to throw Xavier Worthy out there in his first game. But you got to understand the context of last week still. He was a healthy scratch last week. He's clearly the running back 4 in this team. I do think he's the direct backup to Achane, though. So Achane being out would obviously be huge for him. I do think he has like a really high ceiling. But the floors here are not comparable. Not comparable floors like at all. The floor for Jalen Wright, I think, is close to 0 points. Even if Achane's out. Jeff Wilson could still get a lot of this backfield work. And Pollard's floor is really strong. I mean, Pollard played great. And also the Jets got stomped on the ground last week. The Jets allowed 28 carries, really good efficiency to Jordan Mason in the 49ers rushing attack. You got to think with how the Titans offense went last week and the coach saying after the game, if they just punted every first down, they would have won, which is true, that they're going to lean again on the ground pretty heavily here, especially against the Jets. I think you got to go Pollard. And like, I feel like these are actually pretty comparable ceilings still too. Like it's not like Tony Pollard's not going to catch passes as well. So yeah, I would definitely go Pollard over Wright, even if Achane is out. And again, also you got to take the context. I do think Achane's going to be in. I do think he's going to be in. I'm hoping he's going to be in. I'm trying to speak that into existence because I have way too much Achane across all my season-long high stakes leagues and all my best ball teams. Obviously, I hope they do hold him out if he actually needs to sit, for the longevity of the season. But I do expect him to play because he went back in after the injury last week, and he did get some positive reports about how he was moving yesterday too. So definitely a true game time decision. Again, I have 75-25 him playing in my mind right now, but I'm hoping that he plays and that if he plays, Jalen Wright absolutely is off the radar. Again, I still think Jalen Wright's worth a roster spot though because the ceiling is absolutely really high. What's up, Sam? Thursday Night Football question. PPR league, I have Rice, Cup, Garrett Wilson, Waddle, and BTJ. Only can start 3. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, the first 2 here can't be benched. And I got a tough time benching Garrett Wilson, too. Like, I think this one's between Garrett Wilson and Waddle. You absolutely can't play Brian Thomas Jr. with this group of receivers you have. Cup cannot be benched, obviously. We got him as wide receiver 3 this week. I think there's an argument to put him at wide receiver 1 this week after he had a ridiculous 21 targets last week. Yeah, fingers crossed, Matt, for sure. Yeah, I do think that I'd lean Garrett Wilson over Waddle. It's definitely close, though. Definitely close. All right, let's get rapid fire here in the comments before I run. Zay. Yeah, I play Zay over both these Bills receivers, Shakir and Keon Coleman. I would play Waddle, Tyreek, James Cook all over Zay Flowers, though. Is Hubbard droppable? He's borderline droppable. Borderline. Depends who you're dropping him for, of course. There's 2 sides to really every fantasy decision. There's almost always 2 sides to it. You need both sides to be able to answer questions like this. Would I drop Hubbard for Jalen Wright? Maybe. Yeah, I don't think that's that crazy. Especially because we could see a good Jalen Wright game tonight. Tua or Goff? Yeah, it's got to be Goff over Tua. Got to be Goff over Tua. Cooper, DK, Dobbins, Brian Thomas, pick 3. Not a Thursday night question. I think I probably would bench Brian Thomas here and play the other 3. Maybe DK Metcalf too is in consideration here against the Pats. Achane or Cook tonight? Yeah, you got to go James Cook over Achane for sure. Start Rice or Mixon. Do not bench Rashee Rice. Who should I start at flex? Jordan Mason, Travis Etienne, or Xavier Worthy? Yeah, if Mason plays, I'm playing Mason over Etienne. This is a really interesting one. Drop Mostert for the season for Wright. Like it's so tough to know here. This is about his worst case scenario though for Mostert, right? Like he played bad before the injury. He had 9 rushing yards. He was at 1.5 yards per carry. He did have 3 targets, which was encouraging before he went down with the injury. Then he gets hurt. He's 32 years old. So yeah, honestly, like I don't think it's that crazy. Again, it's pretty aggressive. Like similar question here with Javonte Williams. Like what's the real ceiling for Javonte? I think it's maybe a little higher than Mostert's ceiling. But yeah, I do think Jeff Wilson is ahead pretty clearly of Jalen Wright in the pecking order. I think Jeff Wilson is direct backup to Mostert. Wright is the direct backup to Achane. But the fact that Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch in week 1 is not great. That's not great. I do think he's a much higher ceiling than Jeff Wilson. But personally, I think if you got to start one of these two guys, it basically has to be Jeff Wilson in this first game before we see what the Jalen Wright role will really look like. Because, I'm purely speculating here based on what I know about the players. We have never seen Jalen Wright play. All we know about Jalen Wright in the NFL so far is he was not good to make the active roster in week 1. Not good enough to be active over Jeff Wilson, over Raheem Mostert, or over Achane in week 1. And part of that might have to do with he doesn't play on special teams, but I actually thought he was going to be, one of their primary kick returners. Maybe we'll see that tonight, but that's the only NFL action we know of Jalen Wright was him literally not even getting dressed for the game last week. But we do know he was extremely efficient in college, one of the most efficient running backs in this draft class. He didn't get a huge workload ever really in college, but he was extremely efficient on the ground and through the air. If Achane is out, should I start Jeff Wilson, Najee, or Spears? Yeah, I think I'd probably lean Najee here over Jeff Wilson and Spears. Baker or Tua, yeah, it's right at the line for me. I would start Tua over Baker. Let's run through the recap here really quick before we wrap up. Again, doing this live stream early because I'm about to head to Hard Rock for the game. All right, Josh Allen, Tyreek, Waddle, James Cook, Kincaid, and Achane. These guys are all must start. Achane, assuming he plays, he is a must start player in almost all situations. Unless you have James Cook. I would start James Cook just straight up over Achane, even if Achane plays. Kincaid has to be started. You're not going to find a better player on the waiver wire than Kincaid. I think the upside is worth considering for Tua, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Jeff Wilson if Achane is out. I think Jalen Wright also has an extremely high ceiling, especially in deeper leagues. But I'm starting Jeff Wilson over Jalen Wright pretty easily, just based on the fact alone that he was inactive last week and Jeff Wilson was not. I do think Achane plays too, which is part of the reason I'm listing Jalen Wright as a bench. If you really want to shoot for the ceiling, by all means, I'm not going to hold you back from shooting for ceiling ever. But I think Jeff Wilson has a similar ceiling and a much higher floor. Like a slightly lower ceiling, but a much higher floor than Jalen Wright, assuming Achane's out. I think there's a decent chance Jeff Wilson leads this backfield in touches, even if Achane is in. And again, I still think that in that scenario, you got to start Achane. He doesn't need to lead the backfield in touches to smash in fantasy. I think you got to bench Curtis Samuel after the role he had last week. Ray Davis, Mac Hollins, Dawson Knox, Jonnu Smith, Braxton Berrios, Scantling. Leave these guys on your bench or on the waiver wire. The free prop tonight was Ty Johnson, under 14.5 rushing yards. Apparently, Underdog had this at 14.5 rushing and receiving yards, which makes me even more confident that this is just a bad line here from Prize Picks. Let me see if I can find this again. Did they take this down? I think they literally already took it down at Prize Picks. They're terrified of us at Prize Picks. Yeah, they don't even have the Ty Johnson rush yard line up anymore. So I might have to. I'm going to keep this because it was up when I started it. But I do like the Ty Johnson unders tonight. He only had 2 carries, 1 target last week, and they were not good. He went under this in total yards last week. Ray Davis is better than him. James Cook is better than him. So yeah, I like the Ty Johnson unders tonight. I also like the James Cook total yards over. I think the floor is really, really high for James Cook total yards. No matter what the game script is, James Cook's going to be involved. Javonte or Hubbard. What about rest of season? Yeah, so if Achane is out, I would go Wilson over Javonte and Hubbard. Yeah, if Achane is out. And I think I'd prefer Javonte over Hubbard rest of season. That's my time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. If you want to see me broadcasting live from Hard Rock Stadium, make sure you're following on TikTok at Walter Picks. Shout out to everyone in this live stream. Appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on the YouTube live. Hit that follow button on the TikTok live. I will be back live Sunday morning from the time I wake up until the time we kick off. Can't wait for it, guys. Have a great night and good luck, everybody.